meeting to order. Do roll call, Ms. Cindy?
Ms. Abrams?
Here.
Mr. Duncan?
Here.
Mr. Moore? Mr. Tober?
Here.
Line 8, we're going to review the accounts payable check registry from December 16th, 2019 to January 15th, 2020 in the amount of $13,170,000. Do we put the amounts on here? Am I
Yeah, well, you
supposed
go
to?
ahead. It's just record information.
Okay, all right, well, you can, do we just need to approve this?
There's no action needed. It's just for y'all's information to review. If y'all have questions about it, I'd answer any questions. If not, it's here to be presented as information only.
I don't have any questions on that.
Okay, item B, review the year-to-date actual budget comparison report for the major funds of the month of October 2019.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is a report that's required by the legislative auditor. Due to our cyber attack, we've been delayed on this. We're now trying to get back in, and we've closed through October. This is October variance comparisons. You'll see no variance changes at this particular time. There are not a lot of variances we're anticipating. The only real changes that we're aware of so far in our expenditures year-to-date and our revenues, but not reflected on this report, are increase in MFP funding of about $2.3 million. Again, not reflected in this report. That's due to having additional 385 students on our October 1 count than we anticipated. Also not included is a small increase in sales tax, about 0.95% year-to-date, above budgeted. And then also we have additional educational services expenditures of about $1.6 million, which is related with the additional students. These would be teachers and paras and things of that nature that we've been employing above budget that are there related with those additional students. But again, no actions needed on this item. It's just for information purposes only.
One question on that, Mr. Chairman. So the additional revenue or the additional expenses, you have not forecasted that in the projected year-to-date?
Correct.
Year to
It
end
will
of the
be on
year.
my November report when I
Okay.
send it to the next meeting.
So right now, officially, we're on budget within our budget.
Yes. And the additional revenues exceed the additional expenditures, so.
Right. So
when
we're going
I
to be
do-
safe on that.
Yeah, we'll be okay in November when I come to y'all.
Okay.
Okay, item C, consider approval to enter into the contract with the Spyglass Group LLC to perform an audit for telecommunication services.
This is a vendor, I think Mr. Duncan will remember, came to us about 2 years ago at one time, and we held off on doing the work. This vendor, they specialize in auditing telecommunication bills, and there's no cost for us up front. They receive their funding if they see that we're been charged in error, and they result in some savings. They'll get 50% of the savings. If they find we have services that we don't need and we eliminate those savings, they will get the first year savings of those services. They'll do a detailed audit of our telecommunication bills, which would include the local voice service, the long-distance service, the data and internet service, and the wireless service, and they'll look into E-rate services and how that relates with these billings. So these individuals are expert in their field. They've done work for the city of Hammond, done work for the parish government. I'm excited about an opportunity of having them come and review our bills to see if there's any opportunity for savings.
One question on that. If they determine something that we're getting that we don't need, obviously they come to us and see if we need it.
Yeah,
Phone line or a fax line or something like that.
yeah, their fees, there's no startup or minimum fee. Fees are only pertain to the recommendations we select. So if they recommend something and we don't select it, they get no fee for it.
Right.
And they get 50% of cost recovery, that's refunds or credits we get on our account, and then they get the annual amount, the first year annual amount of any monthly service elimination or cost reductions or savings on the monthly bills.
And they've worked with internet providers and stuff like that before.
Yes. This does take action.
Okay.
Mr. Snowback, we've had other companies that have helped us with just the E-rate portion, and have we not?
We've employed an E-rate consultant to help us with the E-rate filing,
Right.
okay? And we've also used a company similar to this about 5 years ago to look at our bills, and they found very little,
Okay.
so.
So I'll move to adopt administration's recommendation.
Second.
Anybody opposed?
Online voting is open. Final vote. Online voting is closed. Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, item D, consider approval to enter into contract with Argent Retirement Plan Advisors LLC to administer our request for proposal RFP process to select the 403B and 457 plan record keepers and advisory firms at a cost of $16,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the things Ms. Stilley would like to do is to see if we're getting the best bang for our buck for our employees related with their 403B and 457 plans. Whether we're offering the best investment opportunities for them at the lowest fees. We've looked around. This particular vendor comes highly recommended. They did a very similar RFP process in Lafayette Parish. I've talked with my counterparts there, and they recommend them for doing this RFP process. Now, keep in mind, this is just to administer the request for proposal process. They'll go in, they'll select vendors to do the record keeping and vendors to be the financial advisors to meet with our employees. They'll examine their proposals, and they'll make a recommendation to the Finance Committee on what record keeper and a financial advisor vendors they're recommending, and they'll tell us why. This is very expert type of knowledge and experience to go ahead and do this. We do not have this type of experience in-house to review these proposals. The individual that is going to do the work is Mr. Chris Schenkel. He only handles retirement planning advisory work. He works under the ERISA laws, which are unique and require expert experience in this field. He serves as a fiduciary advisor under the ERISA laws, and he has done retirement planning advisory services since 1993, so he has 27 years of this type of work. And prior to working as a financial advisor, he worked for Price Waterhouse as an auditor auditing retirement plans. So he comes highly experienced and highly recommended.
Any questions?
Question. So, Mr. Schnotterbeck, the 403B and the 457 plans, that's those plans that Taylor and Sons is
Correct.
handled for. So we didn't take those away from them, did we?
No, they're still doing that, and they'll still do that function in our upcoming enrollment in February. The
Okay.
timeline on this is that they would be doing the RFP process in the spring with a recommendation coming to this board probably in the late, early summer with an implementation probably around July 1.
So has Taylor and Son indicated that they don't want to do this anymore?
No, in talking with Rodney, he would like to put in his proposal through the RFP process.
Okay. And so have we as a board voted that we want to do an RFP on these, or is this something that?
The board has not. This is something that the administration would like to do.
Okay. And so because we've never done, I don't guess we've ever done an RFP?
We have not.
Okay.
Not to this detail. We'll look at the services being provided, the fees associated with those services.
Okay. And so we're going to, the proposal that, the administration's proposal is that we hire someone at a cost of $16,000 to do an RFP on meaning request for proposals on changing to a different provider of those plans?
Not really change, to evaluate what's the best proposal out there, the best plan for our employees, and then make that recommendation. The recommendation may come back that the Taylor and Son program is the best for our employees, but right now, we don't know.
And so I guess just outline a little bit more for me what is so complicated about this RFP that would require us to spend $16,000 for somebody to help us evaluate proposals?
Well, the proposal includes not only the record keeper, that's someone who's going to maintain records and issue reports to our employees. There are fees associated with that. Record keeper fees could range between $1 per employee per month to $5 per employee per month. Then there's fees offering with the municipal advisories that are being offered to our employees. Some fees are built into the advisory office as management fees. Other fees are related with, based on the balance of the employees' funds and such like that. All those fees need to come into play to see if that's the best offering for our employees.
I understand that the proposals can be different and complicated, but, I mean, we've handled a lot of RFPs that were very complicated without the necessity of bringing in a professional to help us evaluate those proposals. So what is it about this particular type of proposal that makes it that complicated?
The ERISA laws that tied into it, going back to 1975 with the Securities Exchange Act, those things really make it complicated. The new laws that have come out with the fiduciary responsibilities of financial advisors also makes it a little challenging. So there's old laws, new laws that are all that impact the ability to select the right advisors and the record keepers.
Chairman?
Any other questions?
Yeah, real quick, and I know I've called Mr. Schneiderbach today and asked him some of these, and I share some of the concerns and questions that Mr. Duncan's asking. To me, it's just a hard pill to swallow to pay $16,000 to get someone, to find us someone to work with, when in the past, the third-party administrator has always done this for us. I mean,
We've never had this done.
but we've always had, who's been doing this before?
Years ago, we had First Financial, and then we switched from First Financial to Taylor & Sons, but we've never evaluated the offerings that they had and determined what fees and what's the best plan for our employees.
But I
This
guess
gonna
my
be a
question
detail-
is
this will-
how do we know that that is a viable price for someone to find it for? You know what I'm talking about? It's like almost to get
Yeah.
it's almost like we want an RFP
To get
to get
do the
fined.
RFP.
Because today,
This is
you know,
the only,
I
this is the
spoke
only
to,
vendor I could find who does this type of service. I couldn't find another vendor who has the expertise in this field to do this kind of service.
Ascension Parish said real quick that their third-party administrator handles this, and I read it verbatim. West Baton Rouge Parish said the same thing, that their third-party administrator handles this. And then on the way here, I finally did get hold to Jim, and I was asking him, and Jim said, well, as a municipal advisor, that's what we do. And that's something that we would do for free to make sure that you were getting, of course, they would get paid in the long run with their bonding prices and everything else.
This is not bonds, Mr. Toller.
I understand it's not
This is not related with
bonds.
bonds.
I'm talking about getting someone to advise us on financial decisions. We're talking about spending $16,000 with a company that none of us know to do work that we've never gotten done before.
That's correct.
Can I,
I
Yeah,
have
go
a question too.
you want,
I'm just wondering, I don't see an attachment to even see what is the contract for us to
Yeah, the
review.
contract, the reason I didn't attach it, the contract was what he called a boilerplate contract, and it wasn't usable or readable to kind of attach it to it. It was very confusing to look at. The only thing that was of any real merit, and before the contract would be signed, certainly Ms. Silly and Chris Moody will review the contract, was attachment A that defined the services. The services are very clear. It's just to administer the RFP process to select a record keeper and an advisor to handle our 403B and 457 plans. That's all that's written on the Appendix A, which defines the scope of the work.
so, and that was kind of what my question was going to be, is perhaps I would be able to better understand it if I could see the actual retention agreement and maybe had a little bit of time to understand the necessity of bringing in somebody to provide this particular service. And because I haven't seen that retention agreement, I was just going to suggest that we table this over to because this is not something that's urgent based on what you're telling me. If we could table this over to our next Finance Committee meeting, I can maybe get a look at that
Sure.
contract and then just, because I'm not trying to do like some sort of gotcha thing. I just want to understand why we need to
understand,
spend
Mr. Duncan.
$16,000.
And I want to reiterate that I know his intention and her intention is to make sure the employees are being best served.
Yes.
And we want that too. You know, the question is, there may be an extra step in there where we make sure that this person's giving us their best, that this is the best route to take to get there, is what I would like to see.
It's important to note, though, that this type of work is different than a regular governmental municipal advisor who does bond work. This is following with the ERISA laws, security laws, and things of that nature. It's a separate field, separate expertise is needed.
You said that this is the only company you could find that does
This is
this.
the only company I can find. I've asked around, talked to my counterparts at different school boards and school functions.
So my question is it necessary? If nobody does this, why do we need a company like this? If they're the only one that does it, it seems
Yep,
to me.
most school boards find a vendor and let the vendor provide the service. And they are really blindly accepting the offerings that are going to their employees. Lafayette Parish, and I sat down and talked to my counterpart over there, they wanted to make sure they were getting the best service for their employees. That's why they employed this particular vendor to go ahead and evaluate in great detail what the proposals were from the different vendors. We don't have, again, Mr. Duncan, we don't have the expertise in-house to look into details, sort of like we don't have the expertise in the house when we do our insurance renewals. We use an insurance consultant who could read through the contracts and provide the best recommendation for the school board.
Well, like I said, for my own peace of mind, I need to have
I
a better
understand.
understanding of, for example, why this is different than when we did the RFP on the third-party administrator change. We did an RFP, those packets and proposals, each one were this thick. The board looked at all of those. We received a recommendation from the administration, selected the third-party administrator, and we moved on. There may be a difference, and maybe with some time and looking at this retention agreement, I'll have a better understanding. I just need, for my own peace of mind, to have some time to do that. So that was why I would make the motion at this time to table this over to our next finance committee meeting, ask that we get a copy of that retention agreement, and then maybe you and I can sit down and I can figure this, you can help me figure this out.
Yes, sir.
That's all I'm
Right, all in favor of tabling the
needs-
motion?
Second?
I don't vote on that.
She's not on the committee.
I can second.
Okay. All in favor? I guess that's it.
No.
Voting is now open.
We're still struggling to get used to that.
Yeah.
I like that.
So we say, nay?
So the motion is to table to the next meeting.
Next finance.
Everyone's cast your final vote.
Have to find it.
Voting is closed. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Is that it for our committee?
That's it.
Well,
Meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned.
Jerry moved to adjourn the meeting.
Yeah, he's